So, welcome to another edition of Cryptowriter, where we seek out the most interesting minds and people in this space. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Michael Mblu, who is, well, current title, as we've discussed, is the Uplift Art founder. So, Michael, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, on the videocast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, it's a very exciting story. And before we get to the end point, which is only the starting point, whatever, just want to quickly just go backwards into your career. You have a very interesting career to date. Marines, trading, musicians, producing, whatever. I don't know where to start. Marines, what was that like?
Well, an incredible experience, to put it nicely. Right. It was really kind of me, finding my way as a young man and not having a direction and feeling that the U.S. military, the Marine Corps in particular, was the avenue to kind of self-discovery and become a man. And it was a great experience, but it's full of all kinds of oddities and explorations. But yeah, I'm glad I did it. But let's just say I wouldn't be promoting it to my two boys.
Okay, what's interesting? Well, I think I've interviewed quite a few people in this space, and some of them have come with a military background, and mostly people like yourself acknowledge the interesting journey, but maybe that they don't want to go back, or say with your children. So we might explore that another time.
Yeah.
And we want different things for our children anyway.
That could take up a whole show.
I was going to say,
just the Marines.
And we all want different things for our children. We want them to do different or the same things. It depends. So it is interesting. So then the next sort of big career thing that you had a huge, you were a trader, you had your own broker in precious metals. And I watched an interview you did recently where you talked about it's all about fear. You're all peddling fear. So maybe talk to you about that experience about precious metals and being a broker and the fear element.
I'm a hard metal guy, right? It's like I come from that, if you can't touch it, you don't own it. So it's interesting that I'm so enmeshed in the blockchain space, right? Because
Totally.
There's nothing you can touch there. But it's interesting because it feels so real to me, this blockchain ecosystem that I'm in. But I come from this, hard money. If you can't touch it, you don't own it. I still believe that to a certain degree, and I'm still an advocate of physical metals. But owning a brokerage and being the seller of precious metals is really called what you call a fear trade, right? So the trade is really talking to people about the demise of the US dollar and the hyperinflation of money, which we're seeing right now across the globe. And one reason why cryptos is going up so much is because this never-ending printing money machine. So holding precious metals, holding crypto, in my opinion, is a wise thing to do. But especially in the back in the day of gold and silver trading, it was really selling that fear. Like you gotta diversify now. You got to put at least a percentage of your fiat into gold, or you're gonna be sorry. So it's just a big fear trade, and it just grew, got on me over the years, and just wanted to get out of that.
And were you also in films you were producing? Is that at the same time, or was that an actual career step? And being a musician, what kind of musician are you?
Well, now we're going back. Well, I'm still a musician. I'm still a musician.
Good.
I've got an interesting career path because I've been everything from a construction laborer to a home builder to a ditch digger to an actor from a model to a limo driver to in this heavy immersed in the sales, and then opening up my own gold brokerage. But yeah, I mean, there's a period I lived in Los Angeles for a decade or so. And I was heavy into, acting. I was heavy into music. I had my own original rock and roll band for, a good 10 years.
What were you? Were you a front man, or were you drums?
Front man and a singer, songwriter, producer. So all of my hat changing through my life, this interesting career path, and now, philanthropic technology company, Uplift Art and the Uplift.world. Through all these different hats that I've worn through my life, the one thing that stayed consistent all this time was my love for writing and producing music. So more than anything, I'd say, I'm a songwriter and a producer, because that's just has stuck with me over the years.
Aren't you lucky? Because you have now taken your hobby and your complementary skill sets and you're front and center, because you produced one of the first NFTs, the first full songs before, forget Kings of Leon. Michael Mblu was there first.
Yeah.
Woo!
I think it's August 7th, 2020. We put the first full-length music video as an NFT on the blockchain. So I haven't, I did quite a bit of research to see if there's somebody else that did that. There was some there's a bunch of, 10, 15, 20-minute snippets of, funky art with some music in the background, but I couldn't find any like full-fledged, full-length music videos out there. So
that's so cool.
I planted the flag and said, first full-length music video on the blockchain, Mblu, Uplift.art. So I can't tell you with 100% certainty if that's actually true, because there's a lot out there and it's a big world. But from my understandings and from my research, I couldn't find any other full-length music videos on the blockchain before August 7th, 2020.
That's exciting. No, I think I don't know either, but it does sound very reasonable. And if not the one of the, so it's kind of cool. So I want to go zigzag back again then. So you've always been a singer, songwriter, musician. Now you're matching them both together, just super. But two questions I want to ask you. When you were doing your precious metals and stuff, because you heard of Bitcoin around that time and you didn't really like it. Is that right? You kind of went, nah, Ponzi?
Yeah, being hard money and, really selling hard money, and if you can't touch it, you don't own it. Well, Bitcoin, came across my desk a few times, and I just glanced at it and, immediately just dismissed it. Oh yeah, internet money, this, fantasy money, right? Like, oh, that's going to end well, right? So, I had, and I remember one client of mine in particular asked me sincerely what I thought of Bitcoin. And back then I was, avid reader of Zero Hedge, which is an online news feed. And it was very anti-crypto, anti-Bitcoin. So all of my narrative was very negative, right? All of my programming was very negative crypto, negative Bitcoin. Back then it was only Bitcoin, but because this is 2012.
Early, yeah.
So so I told him, I wouldn't invest in it. So I really, and plus, I'm selling gold, right? So it's competition back then.
Direct competition.
Fortunately, he didn't listen to me because he did what he did, fortunately. But for some reason, it's kind of like once you buy a green Volkswagen, you just start seeing green Volkswagens everywhere. So once my attention was brought up to Bitcoin, these Bitcoin things just started flying across my desk. And, eventually I finally read this Satoshi white paper. And by the end of that, I was like, whoa, this could work, right? It was still such a big risk and an experiment, right? It was like a shot in the wind, right? But it led me to, at least investing at the same time of me selling my firm. I took some of those profits and invested in Bitcoin, rather early as an experiment. And I actually forgot about it for about a year that I even did it until, I don't know, it was a year and a half later, a friend of mine talked to me about Ethereum. And from that moment on, that was like the turning point for me. Bitcoin was cool, interesting, but it didn't really excite me, right? But Ethereum came onto the scene and I was like, whoa, okay, programmable money, smart contracts, that's when I just went all in. And that was probably like 2000, gosh, I'm guessing, but 14, 15, I don't know. It was right when Ethereum was kind of fresh on the scene. So I went in and I just learned everything I could. And that was the beginning of just me going full blown crypto.
Interesting. And actually, when you were saying earlier about how the green car, I've forgotten you're also an NLP practitioner, aren't you? Or
God,
expert.
you know so much about me. Yes.
And then you said the green car.
Another hat I wore.
that's NLP. I know that. Oh, okay, so that's really cool. So, and I know I've watched other videos of you too as well. Obviously, Ethereum, very seductive, and it was all the ICO stuff too as well, and the programmable language and smart contracts. But you're not really, Ethereum's good. You give it its blessing and you pass on. And I think it's the EOS and the Wax chains that you're more active on at this stage. Am I right?
Yeah. So Ethereum was the door. I was, deep into that ecosystem, probably invested, it seems like, in 100 different ICOs during that whole, phase. That was fun. I really enjoyed that despite all the FUD, right? There's a lot of, I guess, people that got hurt. I lost money, but fortunately I made more than I lost. So I can see how if people weren't diversified, they could have gotten hurt, or if they didn't sell at the right time. But it was just a great learning experience, reading all these white papers, getting ideas. It's just a big experiment. And I, as an adult, chose to participate in this grand experiment, which I loved. And, I understood the risk, right? So a lot of people get into this sector not understanding that we are the base layer of a grand monetary experiment. And so they have these unrealistic expectations, and then they put too much in and they get hurt because they managed it improperly or whatever. But, so I went into this with, okay, this is an experiment that really excites me. Let's go for it. And I'll use, amount of money that if I lose it, it's not going to take food off my family's table. Right. So going into it with the right frame of mind, I think, is very important for people. But Ethereum was, like Bitcoin, it's a great first mover getting you in. I don't use Bitcoin or Ethereum at all. I actually sweat bullets every time I have to transact in those because of the wait times and, just checking, making sure, did I copy and paste things correctly, like back and forth, sweating bullets, right?
I've heard that. I love when you say that, because people who are newbies to this space, they sweat bullets every time they look at their keys. And I love someone like yourself saying, even with, looking back, it still kind of like makes you nervous, which is kind of nice for the rest of us. I don't feel so silly.
Yeah. I mean, even earlier, I was dealing on Ethereum before this call because back in 2017, I bought a bunch of Decentraland land. And I forgot that I had it, but I was logging into OpenSea just to do some research on their exchange and how things work and looking at contracts. And I logged into my account that I hadn't logged into in a long time. And, I have all this land, right? So that was cool. I transact with Ethereum and EOS. I mean, Ethereum and Bitcoin kind of like only if I really have to, because now with, the likes of EOS and EOSIO chains, life is just so much easier, instant free transactions. You have real account names, so you don't have to copy and paste these long keys. You can just, it's like email, right? EOS has made crypto as easy as email, in my opinion. So once you do that and you experience this instant transaction, no fees, especially the Wax ecosystem has really accelerated that in the onboarding process with their Wax Cloud wallet, just super easy that anybody can do. You can set up your wallet in one click. It just makes it nice experience. The only, I guess, downfall or hard side of the Wax ecosystem is the ability to actually get Wax P tokens into your account. because it's just not available on as many exchanges as say Bitcoin or Ethereum or EOS. So that's the only like hard point at this time, but it's getting easier.
Yeah. So then I want to go into the as now not defunct, but it's now morphed into the Uplift art, but the Uplift Nation. Tell me a bit about that. There's a personal story behind it and what you're hoping to do. So you're all into blockchain, you're busy in this space, and you had a personal story which made you want to give back.
Yeah. So, I've been on this adoption journey with my wife for many years now. The process actually took over 4 years to adopt our 9-year-old daughter, Islan, from Haiti. And we've got 2 natural born sons. And so as a family, we went through this adoption process, traveled to Haiti many times. And if you haven't ever been to a third world country before, and you're living, nicely in the first world, however you want to frame it, but we live in the Amazon.com instant access world, where if you run out of toilet paper, you can just go online and you have it on your front porch in an hour, right? So
maybe not in rural Ireland, but I take your point.
Right. So
no, I take your point. Sorry.
So that's kind of that's the world I'm currently living in. So for somebody like me to step into a third world country like Haiti, it's a real shocker, right? I mean, I read books, I watched pictures, I thought I was prepared, right? But when you're actually in that world, it's a life. You're stepping into another paradigm, and you're just not, really ready to see some of the horrors that you see. But being there and just seeing how decimated that country is, I mean, it looks like the tsunami that hit 11 years ago hit yesterday. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, there's just, buildings and ruins still. There's just garbage and litter, everywhere. There's, pigs and goats eating garbage off the street. There's kids and families living right on the street, like right on the shoulder of the streets. So, going there for me, it's kind of like walking past a building on fire and knowing there's people inside and not doing anything about it, right? So here you've got a building on fire. It's called Haiti, right? For me, I can't step into that and see what a tremendous need there is and not do something, right? Like I can't just see that and just walk away and go, hey, good luck, right? So from my first step in my first weeks in Haiti till now, it's a burning drive for me to see how much positive impact I can bring to that, and that's just one place of, a worldwide, situation. I mean, that's just Haiti, but, you can go into many places in the world and it's just as bad. So since I can't have currently an impact in the whole world, right? The first stop is Haiti, and see if I can create a model that can create positive impact for that community. And specifically the education system, because I firmly believe, and it's not even a belief, it's statistics. It shows where there's a lack of education in the world, poverty thrives.
Yeah.
Where there's abundance of education, that's where we see abundance thrive, right? So it's a clear disconnect, and it's clear, problem, reaction, solution is let's fix the education in this region. And it's a long-term fix. This is a generational fix, and I know that, but you got to start somewhere, right? And so I'm working with a really great nonprofit NGO called HaitianRoots.com. They've built 2 successful schools in Haiti. They use all Haitian laborers, contractors, teachers. They don't bring anything from the outside other than capital and expertise, right? And training. So their goal is to go in there, organize the community, get the community bought in, and have the community feel a sense of ownership to the school that they're building. And they build K through 12 schools. And so I gotten to know the founder, Cheryl Moyes of Haitian Roots, very well over the years. And she's a woman that I really admire and look up to, and am eager to continue supporting. So so through this journey, it started out as Uplift Nation. I was, hot on, I gotta create a nonprofit. I gotta raise money, and then, soon after, and this is a guy that knows nothing about nonprofits, right? So it just sounds like a good idea. Like that's how you start, right? That's, it's just, coming from a very naive standpoint. So I got it started. I brought in some crypto friends that were really smart and, compassionate humans. But then shortly I found out that, the nonprofit situation in the United States is, in my opinion, pretty broken, and it's just a mess. And also the public perception of how a charity should operate. You can never incentivize or attract the best talent in the world to come and work at your charity, because one, it becomes a group of starving artists, right? Everybody expects nonprofits to work on a shoestring. You're expected from the public to basically work for free, but who can do that, right?
Yeah.
Who can sustain a family and a life and be happy while just giving away everything, right? It just does not work. So you have thousands of charities in America that are doing very little good because of just the way it's operated and perceived, and all the due diligence and reporting and it's just a mess. So I soon said, okay, this isn't the way. So then I said, because of blockchain and smart contracts and NFTs, I'm going to define a new type of entity, a for-profit that's also for philanthropic good. So our model is 50% of all proceeds goes to our charitable partners. First stop is Haiti, first stop is Haitian Roots. In the future, as we grow and build, I can imagine us having, several trusted charitable partners that are doing good, in various regions of the world. So that's kind of where we're at. Uplift Nation evolved into what's now called uplift.art.
Yeah. So tell me, what is that? So how does that work? So the same purpose, but it's a different model.
Yeah, it's a different model. I call it a philanthropic technology company that's leveraging NFTs in the blockchain space to maximize a win-win-win economy. So win-win-win, meaning
that's 3 wins.
The first win, right?
Yeah.
There's actually 4 wins, but okay. Win-win-win. If we keep going on, it just becomes crazy.
Win squared.
Right?
Win squared. Yeah. So okay, what's the first win?
The first win is the charity or the philanthropic cause that we're meeting, right?
Okay.
The second, which is very important for sustainability and longevity and health of the ecosystem, is the organization itself, right? My goal is to create an organization where I can attract the best humans possible, superstars in their field, and pay them whatever their win is, right? Your win is going to be different than my win, and so when we're engaging with new talent to come on board, I ask, what is your win? Like, looking forward, like, what is it that makes you happy? What do you want to be a part of? What does that mean to you financially? Looking forward, because, I want this to be a long-term relationship, right? I don't want you for the next year, right? I want this to be something that you own too. So tell me, define your win, and let's see if we can make that work, right? And so far we can, right? So that's the second win, is the organization full of, healthy, superpower, talented people that want to make a positive impact in the world, that that aren't looking out for other opportunities because they're in their dream opportunity. That's the kind of organization I want to be a part of and foster. And the third win is the community aspect of it, and the community that's a part of this and almost an extension of this, right? It's just, it's just another division because they're not, actually on the payroll, so to speak. They're more community, but we really engage heavily with the community to find, what their wants are, what their win is, right? And that's very broad, but also incentivizing in such a way with NFTs that they're also financially seeing incentives that are working for them. And what we're seeing here is we're seeing, community members doing their own auctions, whether it's Uplift artworks that they're auctioning off, or it's their own artwork, or if it's other artwork from the ecosystem that they've acquired through the months. And they're doing auctions, and sometimes they're giving, 50, 60, 70% of the proceeds to our Uplift donate address on Wax account, which is basically the account that is attracting all the funds to build these schools in Haiti. So we have a community that's inspired, they're empowered to not only just help with feedback and, just kind of stepping in and helping grow this ecosystem, but they're also producing revenue funds to build schools in Haiti. And this is just a starting point. So those are the three wins. Mm-hmm. But the fourth win is the artists that we work with as well. So the artists, when they come in and they collaborate with us, they'll get a whatever their win is for that drop, right? And so we negotiate. I'm talking to Jillian as an artist. Hey, Jillian, I'd love to collaborate with you on this drop. We're going to raise monies to build a school in Haiti. I love your style and what you bring. This is the concept. What's your win to participate in this? And that conversation happens, and we determine what that artist's win is and what they would like to receive financially or whatever, in order to make them feel good about contributing to an art drop. So that's kind of how we roll.
That's exciting.
Just finding out what everybody's win is. And so far we can deliver on everybody's win, and everybody's happy. So that's the kind of the new paradigm I feel like we're shifting into, from the old world paradigm of, me, company profits. And, it's like, it's really closed, and, it's like the hoarding thing too. Hey, we're all on this bus, flying through the universe together. We've got this brand new spanking technology called NFTs, blockchain. And we have mechanisms in place to where, everybody can win. And it's not this fancy, fantasy concept, but it's something that's actually working, and it's working rather well.
Brilliant.
So I can see this model just improving over the years, other organizations adopting it, tweaking it to make it their own. And I foresee a really beautiful future emerging for the world because of what's happening in this ecosystem.
Well, I 100% agree with you. I know I joined this industry because I was so cross with the whole dog eat dog, the zero sum. I'm going, that's not a way to live. I have children too. Now I have big children, but I don't want them inheriting a world where it's all about profit, and I know my kids aren't that way, but it's still, I want to see, I want my kids are, I think, outgoing, focused on the world. One's vegan, one's vegetarian, one works with animals. They've got a really, kids nowadays, well, they're kids, they're in their 20s. They've got an amazing perception, and they're so evolved compared to what I was at their age. They're fantastic. But I want the rest of the world to catch up too as well. And I want people to say, you can be in business and still be good. It's not an either or choice, which I think is, sleep at nights.
Yeah. And, I'm all for profit. I mean, good on you. Like, let's see how much profit we can make. Right. But if you're doing it in such an equitable fashion where everybody's winning, right, it's just, there's enough to go around, right?
Yeah.
It's just, there really is. And, it's the concept of, are you really happy in your mansion if your neighbors' houses are falling down to the ground? Are you really happy driving your Lamborghini through streets with potholes and dirt and trash and litter? Are you really happy with that, 2-carat diamond ring on your hand as you're taking a plate of food from hands that are scarred and worn? I mean, truly, are you truly happy? So I think this is what's coming to light now in this world of ours, this new awakening of, what is happiness? Why am I here? And what can I do to add to, the well-being of others? Because, if my neighbor is suffering and screaming at the top of their lungs, how can I be at peace? Right? Just one gate over, right? It just doesn't square in my head. And I think that the world is awakening to this now.
I think you are, well, I hope certainly talking to, mixing my metaphors, but talking to an open door, does that mean you're pushing open? Or I think there's a lot of people who want to hear something like this. And I love where you're coming from, because it's not let's take all the wealth from some, be successful, but be successful in a way that you can lie in your deathbed and go, yeah, I was happy I spent all that time at work or whatever I did with my family. I adore what you're saying. I want to finish on one other point. Now, the upland world, that's another metaverse. I love this whole concept of metaverses. And
it's actually the uplift.world.
Uplift, I beg your pardon, sorry.
Upland is another really cool real estate game.
I know. I interviewed them last week. I know.
It's not quite the same, but it's really cool. I'm a participant in that ecosystem as well. Yeah. So it's definitely worth checking out. But the uplift.world is quite different. It's a metaverse. We're leveraging Minecraft and the Wax blockchain, so that we've got this universe to where you can actually buy what's called NFT land keys, and those land keys in your account grant you access to your land on the, in the ecosystem. And so from there, you can invite others in to help you beautify and build up that land. I mean, some people are building skyscrapers where every floor can be its own NFT land keys. So you could someday buy the 22nd floor of, some high rise in, in the financial district, right? So we're building this really robust economy based around NFTs, NFT land keys, also around digital art. We're going to be seeing, massive amounts of projects building NFT galleries in this world to display their own projects, works of art. And you can even go into these galleries and not only view the art, but you can also buy the art. So yeah, we're at the early stages, but even at, we call it Ready Player One, version 1. And even in version 1, it's really quite awesome. We did a hour-long tour. My parents were in town this weekend, and I really wanted to have them kind of understand what we're building. And so, so we took them on a tour of the Uplift, and it's on YouTube. And it's it was quite well done, because at the end of that, they actually got it, right? They kind of understood what all the hype was about. But it's really fascinating metaverse that's popping up, version 1. We have a very robust roadmap and very exciting things to come.
Wow. So if people want to find out more what you're doing following your progress, where's the best place for them to find you?
I'm on Twitter at Mblu Crypto, no E on blue. Also YouTube, Mblu Crypto. I'm on Telegram. We have two public Telegram channels, Uplift Art and the Uplift World. Uplift.art is the website, and theuplift.world is the website for the metaverse.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I think that I know what you're saying is going to resonate with a lot of people. I really do think it's very, very powerful, your thinking and where you're coming from. And let's be successful, let's be good at the same time. So I think it's such a powerful message, and win squared. I think it's a
Nice.
great
Yes.
idea.
Yes.
Thank you so much indeed for your time today.
Well, thank you, Jillian. I really appreciate it.
That's so cool.